took it out so I could see a little better. Essentially, we've got a set of Spyder headlights for an SLK R170. As many people have talked about, there's 2 adjustment knobs on the back. You've got your up and down knob there, your left and right knob there. Notice the L and R and the U and D. That adjusts the low beams, but it also adjusts the high beams. And the high beams point to high, pretty much. You get your low beams set, you get them in a good spot, and then your high beams are kind of like, cool, let's light up the trees. So, as many people have talked about, pull this back cover here off of the high beam bay. And real simple access, that's just a gasket. You get inside of there, and there are, very easily here. There we go. 3 screw holes. So you can see the 2 lower ones and the 1 upper one that's missing right now. Essentially what you want to do is loosen all 3 of those just barely. Then you want to try and pull the upper one out. By loosening the bottom ones, you give yourself the opportunity to loosen the shield or reflector, parabolic reflector around the bulb. And then 5x40 working really well in that hole. What you're looking for is something that is big enough to fit into the large black plastic housing around that and then push the shield. So you can just barely, if you look, basically the back of the headlight. So what you want is something that is big enough to thread into the black plastic and then push the shield. So it won't actually thread into the shield part. So like I said. Okay. So I've just got something shoved into that upper hole back here just to kind of illustrate this. And let's see if we can do here. If I push on that, you can kind of see that shield start to dip. And it's going to dip downward. Really can't see that all that well. There you go. So as I shove on the top there, it starts to dip downward. So essentially we're not really moving, we're kind of moving the whole apparatus because the bulb moves with it. But we're going to move the high beam separate from the low beam by doing this. So that's the goal. All right, so I found something that works pretty well. I want to point something out here. So the existing, or the original, is on the right there. The new one that I'm using is on the left. The new one is a, what did I just see? No, the new one is a 3/16 by 24 thread. The big thing that's what I want to point out there is that it's a different thread pattern. The back of the headlight shield mirror reflector has that original thread pattern, okay? And we don't want to thread into that. So by using something with a different thread, I'm less likely to accidentally thread into that. And I say that because I just tried to use a different, larger metric bolt. It was quite a bit larger, but I'm pretty sure it started to bite onto the threads. You can see that there. So it was quite a bit larger, but the thread pattern was similar. And so it was just kind of like, okay, I'll bite and drive some new threads in there. So I went back to using this one, which I don't like because it's a flathead. But I went back to that one because the threads are different. So here I am on the back of the light. You can see I've got that threaded in there. It's okay that it doesn't go all the way in. I've got the bottom 2 tightened. And I've got that top one kind of at a point where I can show you the gist of this here. So if I can hold this in one spot, I'm going to start to turn this in. You can start to see it barely move down there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's pushing the top down. If I take it back, you can kind of just start to see it come back up now. So this is now essentially an adjuster for the high beams. And it's threaded into the black backbone of the headlight and not into the headlight bezel itself. So that is what you are seeing there. So now it's a matter of putting it back together, putting it back in, and testing it out. Shield here. So this is like the outside looking down in there. And I'm trying to find like the best place for my light to actually show this off. So if you look down in there, we're gonna see if I can get this to focus nicely here. I really can't. Plus the lens doesn't make it any easier. So the lens is ridged there. But you can just barely make out right in there. That's silver. So the back is the black bezel. Everything from the front here is the actual reflector. So the front is the reflector. The back is the black backbone of the light structure, and this is the thread pushing that out. So that's what you look at there. We're about 25 foot from a wall here, and as I start to screw in that left high beam bolt, you can see that lower, and as I take it out, back up again, and tighten it to go back down. What we want to do is get those high beams just above where the low beams stop. The low beams have been adjusted so that they stop just shy of basically anyone else's mirror, so we're not blinding them with our low beams. But we want our high beams to be just right about where that top line is, so that the high beams make up where the low beams stop. And we'll go ahead and dial that left one in just a little bit down further. Now, our right one, that's about where it was originally. And as we tighten that down, we start to bring that back down to level. And we've got good brights again. So, mission accomplished.